Hey everyone, I'm Pastor Jason. I'm one of the staff pastors here at Refuge Ministries, and I just want to welcome you to today's Advent devotional. We're going to continue looking at the names of Advent. Today's name is the door. We can find that reference in John chapter 10, verse 7. But to give you a little context before we read that, I want to tell you what's happening here. So Jesus in John chapter 9 is with the crowd, and there's a man that was born blind, and someone asks, who sinned, this man or his parents? And Jesus explains to them that nobody had sinned, but he was simply blind so that God could work a miracle in him. And so then Jesus proceeds to go through a process where the man is healed. For that healing to take place, he has to go down to a pool and he has to wash. And so he leaves where Jesus is. And as he's coming back, people are noticing that there's this guy that they recognize as being a beggar in town that was blind, now is walking around and is able to see. And so they're questioning him if he's the same guy, and he explains that he is. And it gets back to the Pharisees, and they don't believe it's true. And they said, clearly this couldn't be, Jesus couldn't be a man of God because he healed on the Sabbath. And so Jesus now is still addressing the same crowd. And he says, beginning in verse 7, truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. And then he continues on a little bit further down in verse 9, I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. So what Jesus is doing here is he's using a metaphor that they would understand, that was pertinent to their time period. See, the shepherds of the day would take their flocks and take them out to pasture and allow them to graze. And then in the evening, they would bring their flocks in and they would take them to a pen. And now this pen would be high walled, built of rock, and there would be a very narrow entrance, big enough for one sheep to pass through. And the shepherd would stand at the gate or the door, and he would allow each sheep to pass through after checking them. And once all the sheep were in the pen, he would then sit down at the entrance and become a barrier, the door to that pen. And so this prevented anything from outside that wanted to harm the sheep from getting in, but it also protected the sheep and it prevented them from leaving the pen at night. And this is a picture that Jesus was painting, or he was giving, that he is the only way to heaven. See, the Pharisees were trying to be that door to God, that door to heaven. And Jesus was explaining to them that they are not the door, that he was the one and only way to heaven. And so what's awesome is that Jesus is the same today as he was yesterday, and as he will continue to be. And so if he was the door then, he is the door now. So that's comforting, because we don't have to rely on our own strength. We don't have to rely on our own merits. We don't have to rely on our own good deeds to get into heaven. See, Jesus paid that price for us, and he became the door, the one way. The only thing that we have to do is accept that. And I pray during this time of Advent, as we look towards the second coming of Jesus, and as we remember his first coming of his birth, I pray that if you don't know him, that you would become acquainted, that you would become intimate with him, and you would find out who he really is, and that he is the one and only way into heaven, and that you would accept that gift that he gives freely, and that you would enter in with him, and that you would be one of the sheep in his fold that he is protecting. Guys, I love you, and I just pray that you would just continue to look towards Jesus, that you would continue to look towards his second coming as we remember him as a baby in this time of Christmas and this time of Advent. God bless.